let's be honest. Let's be very honest. This is James Clapper, DNI director, lying to Congress.
Summer, the NSA director was at a conference, and he was asked a question about the NSA surveillance of Americans. He replied, and I quote here, "The story that we have millions or hundreds of millions of dossiers on people is completely false." The reason I'm asking the question is, having served on the committee now for a dozen years, I don't really know what a dossier is in this context. So what I wanted to see is if you could give me a yes or no answer to the question, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly.
That's a lie. Everybody knows it's a lie. It's been well established that's a lie. Clear, unequivocal, lying to Congress. There's nobody that looks at that statement and believes at this point that that statement is true. The Obama administration was collecting mass surveillance on American citizens illegally, and Clapper knew about it. And being asked that question, Clapper lied. Here's another one. This is Brennan, director of CIA. This is a question based on whether or not the CIA was spying on the committee that was overseeing that exact same CIA.
And we're very grateful for that. Director Brennan, in 2014, the CIA conducted an unauthorized search of Senate files, including the emails of Senate staff investigating the CIA's use of torture. The CIA Inspector General later stated that the search involved improper agency access to Senate files, and a review board that you appointed concluded that the search resulted in inappropriate access to the committee's work product. You initially denied that the search took place, but the reports of both your Inspector General and the review board show that this denial was at odds with the facts. After the facts were publicly exposed, the CIA even wrote an apology letter that you did not send. Now, senior officials from the NSA, the FBI, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence have all testified that it would be inappropriate for their agencies to secretly search Senate files without external authorization. But we still have not gotten an acknowledgement from you. So I think it would be important. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to set the record straight that this would never happen again. Would you agree that the CIA's 2014 search of Senate files was improper?
This is the annual threat assessment, is it not? Yes. I think, Senator, as you well know, there were very unique circumstances associated with this whole affair. These were CIA computers at a CIA leased facility. It was a CIA network that was shared between Senate staffers conducting that investigation for your report, as well as CIA personnel. When it became quite obvious to CIA personnel that Senate staffers had unauthorized access to an internal draft document of CIA, there was an obligation on the part of CIA officers who had responsibility for the security of that network to investigate, to see what might have been the reason for that access that the Senate staffers had to that document. They conducted that investigation. I spoke to the chairman and vice chairman about it. I tried to make sure they understood exactly what the challenge was that we had. We conducted that investigation. I then subsequently referred the matter to the IG when the Senate leadership was concerned about the actions of CIA officers.
Brennan is not going to commit or acknowledge wrongdoing here. He is going to lie to Congress. Both men lied to Congress. In fact, you can see both men on CNN or MSNBC, depending upon the network to which they find themselves. But these two men lied to Congress. It was understood that these two men lied to Congress. There was no consequences for these two men lying to Congress. This is Roger Stone. Roger Stone is a crony in the real term of the word crony. He is a henchman of Donald Trump. He used to be a henchman of Richard Nixon. And in a misbegotten plea for relevance, he lied to Congress. Now, Stone was charged with indictments basically of witness tampering, obstruction of an official proceeding, and 5 counts of making false statements. 40 months supposedly in prison for doing so. Stone was supposed to surrender on July 14th, and so Stone put out an emergency plea to get that postponed. The courts denied that emergency plea to get that postponed, and Roger Stone was supposed to go basically to jail. Donald Trump intervenes and commutes his sentence, which means that Roger Stone is going to be a free man. Now, I'm going to show you the response to this. I'm going to show you basically the letter that the White House put out that is, I think I heard the term pugnacious used to describe it. It's probably the best way to describe it. And I'll give you my take on this. I'm desensitized to this stuff. I gotta be honest, I don't entirely care. It is within the president's discretion to use the power of pardon. If I was president and I had a friend named Pookie Bobo Jenkins and I decided to pardon him, well, that's within my discretion. And you can't necessarily have the opposition continuously screaming for impeachment the moment that the president uses the powers that are within his discretion. It's not that Roger Stone is a great guy. It's more so that Donald Trump has the abilities to do so. If you don't want Donald Trump having those abilities, don't choose candidates that lose to Donald Trump. But we'll go into it. Roger Stone is going to be released. I'm going to also give you my reason and part and parcel to why I think I have no issue with this. Because it was punitive. What they did to Stone was punitive. Whatever you want to think of Roger Stone, fair enough. I do not like our intelligence services and systems that can put people in cages to be used by our political instruments in this kind of weird banana republic style that has been taking place that needs to stop. Welcome to a late night, early morning, can't sleep soapbox.
Shortell, he was on the scene when this happened in Fort Lauderdale. Tell us everything that transpired this morning.
Allison, an extraordinary morning. We were here at 5 a.m. waiting for whatever was going to happen. It was dark, 6 a.m., just after the hour. About a half dozen police vehicles with sirens, but no sound. Silent sirens pull in front of this Fort Lauderdale home where Roger Stone was presumably asleep. The lights were off in the house. About a dozen officers, FBI agents wearing tactical vests and with large weapons, fanned out across his front lawn. One went up to the house and rapped on the door, shined a flashlight inside, said, "FBI, open the door." Moments later, as you heard in the video, it said FBI warrant. That's what the agent said. We then saw a light go on the second floor, and moments later, there was Roger Stone in the doorway. That was our video exclusively you saw shot by Gil De La Rosa. An extraordinary arrest here in Fort Lauderdale.
Now, the first question that you should ask is, well, wait a minute. It was 5 a.m. How did you know? How did you get that shot? How were you even aware to be standing there at that particular time in the morning to have your camera on that door when all of those agents swarmed in with the camera, with lights off, raided his house like a compound with guns and weapons, as if this geriatric was going to somehow put up a fight and come out with guns ablazing? That's what they did to his house. Now, you can say, ha, but I would kind of make the point that if they can do that here, they can do it anywhere. And do you really want your mechanisms of government to be used in this way? The other 2 men were part of federal agencies. Being part of those federal agencies, the lie that they made was that much more extravagant. The notion that the CIA would be spying on an agency that's supposed to be monitoring the behavior and the affairs of the CIA is outrageous. He gets up there and lies about it. Clapper, same thing. Are you spying on American citizens? He is engaged in illegal spying, or at the very least is aware of it. Congress asks him a question, he lies about it. Both of which are now sitting on television. Roger Stone lies. Again, misbegotten plea for relevance. Lies. I want to go into that lie for a moment in a split second. But just for the finish on this point, they raided his house like a compound over a lie that didn't mean ultimately anything. But the other two walk for lies that meant everything. What's wrong with this picture, right? If you're going to go after one, you should go after both, especially when the other two are engaging in lies that are just that much more explosive. In the case of Roger Stone, though, again, this is not a rah-rah for Stone. Stone got himself into a mix of trouble by lying, basically saying that he was some kind of conduit to WikiLeaks. Now, in lying about being a backdoor to WikiLeaks, all of these liberals thought that this was the guy. We finally got him. This is the link that we were looking for. This is the missing link. Roger Stone lied. What Roger Stone was lying about was that he had a friend, Credico, who had a link to Julian Assange, a backdoor to a backdoor. Stone tries to get Credico to back him up on this. And on top of trying to get Credico to back him up on this, when Credico wouldn't do so, Randy Credico, Stone threatened Credico and Credico's dog. I'm going to kill your dog if you don't back me up in this lie that you are some kind of a backdoor to WikiLeaks. Credico wouldn't do it. The FBI, all the investigative functions get involved. They realize he's lying. Now, liberals raised this prosecution as if this is some other kind of plank in the Russiagate stuff. It is. It's a plank falling apart because Roger Stone, supposedly the conduit to the back door, just gets convicted. And if he is indeed getting convicted of lying, then what he was lying about was being a backdoor, meaning your whole idea of Russiagate, the bottom has just fallen out of it with the conviction of Roger Stone. Roger Stone was supposed to spend 40 months in prison for that lie. Roger Stone just lost his plea, his emergency plea from the federal courts to get that postponed July 14th. Trump intervenes and basically commutes his sentence. This is not a pardon. This is not basically giving Roger Stone a free pass. This is basically allowing his sentence for him to just not serve jail, despite the fact that the sentence was just. Here's the thing, Roger Stone did lie. And Roger Stone did get himself into this. Roger Stone didn't have to get himself into this. He himself threw himself into this particular issue and got himself into a world of trouble because of it. That's on Roger Stone. The fact that they descended on his house like a compound while they let the other two people walk, well, that's on the federal government itself. And that's on the people who were in various positions that were okay with one lie, but not okay with the other. And I'm making the point that that is a problem. That in and of itself should not have happened. I do not like people in our jails being used in this kind of casual way where we have politics or political expedience to score political points by putting people in a cage. Roger Stone, not a great person, fair enough. That's irrelevant. It just is. And there's nothing in me with everything that avails us at this moment that cares about this. Now, one thing also that needs to be understood, Trump had to reconcile whether or not he wanted to do this in the context of an election. People may feel some kind of way with the president doing this. There's another logic, however, that you can make a case that says Trump is at the worst of his polling that he's ever gotten. And being at the lowest of the low, how much lower can he go? And maybe he can make an estimate of saying, look, if I'm digging myself out of a hole starting from this day forward, well, these extra calories aren't necessarily going to matter, in which case my rating is already in the toilet. Me pardoning this guy is not going to matter one iota in the grand scheme of things. If I lose this election, it's not going to be because of this pardon, it's going to be because of other issues. In which case, oddly enough, in some of the reverse logic gives them almost a free pass of making this particular, this person off. Whether he would have did it or not, that might not have mattered at all. It might not have been an issue of politics. It might have been an issue of loyalty. This guy was a loyal soldier of mine. He kept his mouth shut. He walks. I'm the president. I have the power to do it. I'm going to do it. Whatever Donald Trump's reasoning is on this to me is, I got to be honest, almost irrelevant because I honestly don't care. The Democrats are calling for impeachment. The Democrats are saying that this is some kind of gangster presidency. They're making the point that there are two systems of justice, one for the Trump's men and the other for everybody else. This is the party, again, mass surveillance under Obama illegal. Nobody, got to prison for that. Wall Street, nobody went to prison for crashing the economy. Nobody went to prison for basically starting a war that got 1 million people killed and 4,000 Americans and spent $7 trillion. You couldn't bring the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, who said she knew it was a lie, couldn't bring them one iota to press charges and bring on issues of impeachment. Hillary Clinton, with the Clinton Foundation and all that information being basically out in the open, that slush fund, all of that stuff was grossly illegal, grotesquely so. None of that stuff came up as issues for prosecution. Don't give me this nonsense about 2 tiers of justice and then point to Donald Trump. That works on both ways. In this very specific case, whether Roger Stone has went through enough or not is irrelevant to me. Does the president have the authority to do it? Yes. Can the other people cry foul because the president did so? I suppose they can cry foul. Nothing to stop from doing so. Is it, I guess what I'm asking is there credibility to it? And the answer is, of course, no. It's just not. There have been multiple times where the Democrats should have been involved in prosecutions, and they just didn't care to do so. But now on this, because there's an election coming up and because his name is Donald Trump, they feel that, hey, it's fair game to bring up all this stuff now. No. This went both ways. There was all sorts of issues that demanded prosecution, morally, ethically cried out for prosecution, if only just to keep up the standard of some level of credibility from the standpoint of the government and the way that we supposedly prosecute things that are against our laws, even when it's the president or congressional members. But they couldn't bring themselves to do so. And now they have all of this issue with Donald Trump. Let me read you his statement before I cut this video. The statement is funny as all hell. Yeah, the statement is funny as all hell. So, just to make it clear, Stone was convicted in November of 7 charges, including lying to Congress, witness tampering, and obstruction of congressional committee proceeding as part of the former special prosecutor Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Now, the statement, I don't know what happened to my statement. I had it up. Give me 1 second. So Trump puts out right here. Roger Stone is a victim of the Russian hoax that left and its allies in the media perpetuated for years in an attempt to undermine the Trump presidency, said Kayleigh McEnany, the White House press secretary. There was never any collusion between Trump campaign or the Trump administration with Russia. That's true. She added, Mr. Stone, like every American, deserves a fair trial and every opportunity to vindicate themselves before court. The president does not wish to interfere with the efforts to do so. At this time, however, and particularly in light of the egregious facts of circumstances surrounding the unfair prosecution, arrest, and trial, President Trump has determined to commute the sentence of Roger Stone. He has already suffered greatly. He was treated very unfairly, as many others were in the case. Roger Stone is now a free man. Roger Stone is now a free man. Stone's attorney, Grant Smith. Mr. Stone is incredibly honored that Mr. President, or that President Trump, uses awesome and unique powers under the Constitution of the United States for this act of mercy. Mr. and Mrs. Stone appreciate all consideration the President gave to this matter. That's the bare bones of it. Yeah, that's the bare bones of it. I mean, they're calling for impeachment over a power that is well established within the president's purview. They're even trying to come up with some kind of law or something that stops the president from pardoning people who may be within his line of succession. I mean, for God's sake, when the Republican Party was losing to FDR, the Republican Party got in their heads, we don't want another FDR where the person can basically dominate the presidency in that way. And they put in policy that basically said the president can only serve 2 terms. This was done in direct repudiation of FDR's dominance in that position in order to prevent that dominance. In this position, the president of the United States has all discretion to use powers of pardon, or for that matter, commuting a sentence. He did so. That's the beginning and the end of it. Like, share, and subscribe. Bilal Selmam. Here's an interview that just went live just hours before the commute. Stone's hat, according to Stone, was a gift from a Nigerian boy. It was amazing. Okay, I'll check this out. I'll check this out just before he commuted the sentence. All right, I will end this here. Like, share, and of course, subscribe. Thanks all.